Let me see if I could do this nonsense right here. In your broadcast, Ty. This ain't nothing but the devil. You hear me? The devil. Why is it not finding my girl? Satan. We trying, y'all. We trying to get each other on here. It shows me. Hold on, let's see. Why is it not letting me? This is a tester, y'all. Okay, Ty, you watching. But why doesn't it let me add you? It says watching, bring them on camera to everybody else but you. That is the devil. Now, let me see. Ty Shaw. Is it something with a camera? There's a green little thing around everybody else's thing, but a few people. It may be a setting that we're on. Invite a friend. Satan. Ooh, y'all. It's getting on my last nerve. To receive and add. Okay, I think it says adding.
Okay, I'm out here. We out here.
Won't God do it? I knew that the devil tried it. The devil tried it
The
on
devil
this day.
was working hard, honey, to keep the truth from the people.
Ooh,
Okay,
that's all right though. But when the two waters combine, darling.
okay. When the dos aguas come together, honey.
I know that's right. So,
Woo.
all right, folks. Hopefully, y'all can get up on this gig and see what's going on. And we're just gonna start from here because,
Right.
I mean,
It's
at
so
this
much.
point, we got it on here, and
Honey.
we on it right now.
You got your liquor.
Um,
I got my drink ready.
you,
Let's go.
baby, if you don't know your brother up in this spirit, if I don't have the mojito
I'm waiting
up in
for
my
you. Yes.
look, this is my this is my omiedo, boo.
Yes, honey.
All right.
They almost sign, honey. Wait,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, I was ready.
Okay.
I was ready. So, I'm gonna let ladies first. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and your credentials because I think that's important nowadays. We got folks
Right.
claiming all sorts of things, giving advice, doing all this, and where their credentials at.
Right.
Right.
Is that
So you,
that
you
is a
you
thing.
you go ahead and introduce your wonderful self.
Well, it's your girl Ty, Flatbush all day. Yeah, I got Yemoja Crown, Lucumi. I'm initiated into Haitian Vodou as a mambo. I'm a Yaya and Ganga in the Palo tradition. And recently, last year, I'm 85. So that's me.
And for those of y'all who don't know me, I am David Sosa. I am initiated to Oshun in the Lucumi tradition. I am a practicing espiritista.
Oh, yeah. Put
And
that on
that's
my
pretty much
checklist too.
put it on the checklist. Yes, she's a dedalist. Okay, she is a espiritista for days. She sees them folks, she talks to them, and she work them out. So I am excited about our first venture because we're very outspoken folks. We're very outspoken young priest. But we've been in the game for a little bit and we've been practicing and we've been one thing about us, we've been collecting information and building our knowledge database so we can act in our best capacity as priests and spiritual workers. It's something that we have made a commitment to, which is why we're so passionate about various subjects that involve the African traditional religions. And in this particular go live, we're discussing some of the Orisha altars and things that are being put up, and how people who are not initiated, who want to learn about Orisha and maybe even work with them in some of the more healthier ways of probably doing that, I would say, and or alternatives,
Right,
if I may,
right.
on that. So I want to just start out by saying setting up altars for Orisha is probably not the best thing, in my opinion. And I will give my reasoning as to why. I believe that we do not bypass priesthoods. I believe that there is tradition. There are priesthoods existing and living today for a reason. And unless you have been instructed to and or divined for by a priest that told you to set up a space to do some type of spiritual work, and they are hands-on guiding you in that process of the work that you're doing at that sacred space that you're building, then I don't believe it's a good idea, because how can you confirm that what you are setting up is in fact being received by Orisha, and that you are reaching Orisha, and that the work being done and or accomplished is actually being done by Orisha?
Okay.
And I have to come to that from a spiritualist point of view, because we know that we just don't give candles to anybody. We
Right,
just don't give a cup to anybody. We just
right,
don't start calling on anybody. We
right.
do an investigation. We make sure that what we are calling is actually responding and doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's my biggest thing with that, is that we as priests have ways to confirm that what you are dealing with is in fact Orisha. We can ask Orisha as direct representatives of the priesthood and confirm with Obi or sorts of divination. So as a non-initiate, you do not have that. So you can bring unwanted energies into your life, into your home, into your considered sacred space, and cause more havoc and trouble for yourself than not, therefore leading you to have to come see one of us anyway to now have to fix the situation.
Right,
Now,
right,
please touch on that, sister.
right.
Please touch on that, sister
So
girl. Please.
so I want to start out by giving a bit of a disclaimer. Yes, and sip your liquor, honey, because I want to start out by saying that I'm not coming from a judgmental place. I'm coming from a place of the reason why I'm telling you this is because I've done this. I've been the overzealous Aleo. I've been the super nosy Aleo, asking all kind of shit I shouldn't have been asking. I've been the person seeking some type of connection, but not necessarily having guidance, and trying to do whatever I could to build some type of bond. So I understand the need to find something that's Black, that's African, that's not Christian, and trying to figure out your way. But my
Absolutely.
is like multifold, right? On one level, let's talk about the dead people. Half of the time, what we're experiencing is genuine communication, but it's not coming from the source we think it is. And if we haven't been taught how to confirm that, how to develop that, or even modes of discernment, there were things that I thought I knew and I understood, but I didn't have the context to understand. And it wasn't until later, when people A, pulled my card, and B, I had the experience, that I started to say, damn, that big old Black lady that was coming in my dreams might not have been Yemaya. That might have been this old nigga I got on my side here. And if I hadn't sat misas for 10 plus years, working out dead people, sitting at that bovada praying prayers that I didn't even like, I wouldn't have found that out. Because oftentimes what they think is an Orisha is actually some ancestor. It's some spirit guide that walks that same commission, that same commission. And it's like, instead of putting that yellow candle to Oshun, why not hook up your gypsy? You know what I'm saying? Hook up your Hitana, or if that's what they're calling it, because that's another conversation,
that's a whole other go live.
How we stereotype and typecast spirits. But for the purposes of this conversation, what about your ancestors? What about
your ancestors?
What about your ancestors? What about what we consider an ancestor to be, which you don't know yet because you don't have the education to know that, because not all things dead are ancestors. And even if I take it from a modern witchcraft perspective, in terms of being like a modern witch, you know, your home was prepared in certain ways before you opened certain magical doors. You knew how to prep yourself and center yourself. You determined your hierarchy of spirits. You understood the difference between major deities and celestials and lower spirits and elementals. You understood how to cast a circle. You might have gone through a Godhead affirmation via a high magician in your coven, or through a Godhead assumption on your own. You, as a witch, would have known the basic schools of magic: theurgy, thaumaturgy, conjuration, abjuration. You would have had a basic magical skill set. So there's nowhere
Divination.
in the world. There ain't nowhere
Whether
in
you
the
were
world.
pendulum, scrying, whatever you were doing.
And then my thing is, even the need to be witchy, which we're going to have to get to because that's going to bring in another conversation. Your need could have been fulfilled with a white table. And you might not have had to pay for nobody's initiation nowhere. I'm just saying, you know, so what might seem or appear as oppression or somebody trying to hold you back, which when we are new, we are sensitive. We don't feel confident. We don't feel like we have what the priests have. So we take everything as an attack. I did. We've all been there. And it was like, but little girl, you just don't know no better. You know what I'm saying? I'll give you an example. Ia Fayomi Falade, right? Beautiful, amazing Ia. I love her. Oh my God. When I was going through certain things, I called Ia asking Ifa questions, and I was feeling sort of disillusioned about Ifa. And you know what she told me on that phone? And I could just imagine her face. She was just like, oh, baby, that's because you don't know Ifa. And just gave me grandma, honey. And you know what? I could have been deep up in my feelings, but she was right. I didn't have the context.
And that's it. I mean, that is it. And my thing is, you know, when I teach my godchildren, I sit down with them and I'm like, listen, I understand Orisha are very accessible. Okay. That's how the 7 African powers came about. Because it started out as 7 damn tribes, one place, and then all of a sudden it turned to 7 damn major Orishas.
Right. So, don't get me started on that with the 7 African.
And that's a whole other thing, right? But that just goes to show the accessibility and popularity of said deities due to the Yoruba people and the Mafa and the slave trade and what people were exposed to and whatever the case may be is a huge deal. And because of that, we have people who just want to know so much and they want to connect so much. And I get it. We all been there. Like you said, I was there too. You know, I had built an altar under the guidance of my initial Iya. And, you know, she taught me there how to work with, and this is old school Puerto Rican, right? Caída de cobre.
Right.
And she's like, you're not working with Oshun, you're working with Caída de cobre and un camino de Oshun. So there was a pathway, there was a shared belief through the culture that this particular saint had an energy that resonated with that of Oshun. And so she almost acted like a messenger or a doorway to that particular Orisha, but it wasn't the Orisha. And I was made very clear about that. Santa Barbara work may have been done in the name of Shango. It was still Santa Barbara I was working through and working with.
Right. That's right.
And so there was that. And so, again, I still needed that guidance and that perspective and context from a priest.
Right.
Okay. I think the other thing is, while I'm the first person to also say Aleos can go to different points in nature to also connect with the Orisha, which is true, I want to also put out the warning that there are different entities and spirits that live at these various geographic locations that can be taking your offering, or that can be answering you, or that can be affecting you, or that can go home with that ass.
Right.
Don't think because you went to the river and spoke the name Oshun while you threw your pumpkin in, or your sunflower, or your 5 pennies, that was Oshun that took that. Because there's plenty of water fucking spirits that exist by the river and or the ocean. There are plenty of spirits that live in the cemetery, which is why I tell people, stop thinking Oya lives in the cemetery and go in there with all sorts of 9 plums and fucking eggplants when you don't know what the hell you're picking up on or how to clean yourself off before you leave.
Exactly. I also think that they do themselves a disservice because you're talking about meeting people where they are. but where you always are is with the muerto, is with the echo. That's the thing you came into to the world with. It's the thing you didn't need to pay nobody for. It's your first line of defense when the thing you getting ready to pay for don't feel like being bothered with your black ass. I'm just saying, because it gets like that. Okay.
And there's that level of empowerment, right? There's that level of empowerment.
It is. It's what's going to give you the autonomy that you're seeking, is what you find when you establish yourself with your ancestors and with your spirit guides, if you choose to work in that fashion. The gifts that you want to develop, the doors you want to open, you're going to go ask Oshu, you're going to ask Yemaya, and you got the dead person in the back looking at you like, oh, word? So you just skip right on over me. We ain't even going to do this. Okay.
Right.
You know, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And there's also the disservice you do to the community itself, because there's a difference in perspective. You're coming from a place of just, again, Western individualistic thinking, and our entire way of living is antithetical to that. You know what I'm saying? We come from a place where, you know, people get under this idea that, you know, you're going to leave organized religion to come here. And there's something about this that's unorganized. If anything, your ass about to get more structure. Okay. You're about to get more rules than you ever had. What you can eat, who you can screw, where you can go, how you got to sleep for the rest of your life. So I don't understand why they think they're coming here and escaping the rules. And then you tell me you want to get to your ancestors, you want to get to the divine feminine. It is without question that these traditions are Black women traditions. Black women started them. This is that. And the Black women traditions you're trying to get to, the ancestresses left the technology in a certain way. So you're saying that what you're trying to get to now is not good enough. You want to get to them, but you don't want the rules. And they put me onto that because there was a lot of things about this community that I hated. And in my stubbornness, I stalled my own growth, not wanting to move forward because of my feelings. But the fact of the matter is, I can't pick and choose what I like and just run with that. You got to go for the thing hook, line, and sinker.
And one thing I've always said, we're not trying, and yes, listen, if y'all don't like the word newbies, don't like the word newbies. If you want neophyte, aleyo, whatever you want, uninitiated, the shoe fits, okay? The issue is that some of us, I'm gonna say some of us, okay? I can't say all of us. I know there's some of us that are like, but you know, we're not trying to oppress you. We're not trying to tell you no. We're trying to redirect you for two reasons. A, for your safety and for your spiritual well-being and your spiritual development. And B, so we ain't got to clean up the goddamn mess. Because let me tell you something. Some shit ain't worth a derecho.
Real talk. Real talk.
I don't need your envelope, boo. I don't want to take no shit off for you. That leaves me a week of cleaning and all sorts of other shit I got to do. How about you just don't do that shit, and then we don't got to worry about nothing coming home with you.
Real talk.
How about that?
Real talk.
And the thing is that, you know, we're telling people to get back in contact with their ancestors, to set up an ancestor altar. Your first altar in your house or space.
Yeah.
If you want to get into any of this, and I don't care what tradition, I'm going to say across the board because there's no harm in it, is to get in line with your ancestors. Set up an ancestor altar. Set up a space where you can connect to the people that you come from.
Right.
Because the real tea is, we can't even proceed to Orisa without our ancestors' blessing. We will stop a whole damn Ocha initiation if the ancestors aren't happy or say no.
Real talk.
You understand? Like, that's real. And I'm trying to tell folk that. I'm like, we're not trying to tell you don't mess with Orisa just because. And, you know, someone used the word monopoly the other day. Well, who got the monopoly on God? Listen, let me say this real quick, because this is going to be some shit that may or may not bother you. The Orishas did not die on no cross. They did not do no grand martyr for the sins of the world. So the monopoly belongs to the priest. Hello. Yes, I said it.
Talk about it.
Why? Because we busted our ass, blood, sweat, tears, money, and everything else to get where we are, to learn what we learned, and we're not giving it away for free. We're not giving it away for nothing.
Hello. And then
you don't get to come up in here, pay your fare, boo. What they said, pay your fare.
That's what they
want to ride this bus?
They say, you want to ride the bus? Pay your fare, swipe the
Baby,
Metro
that
card,
blessed
honey.
me.
That's what they told
That blessed me.
us.
Get you a spiritual MTA card.
Honey, okay, because but the thing is with that, to me, it's so deep because again, it is without question that this is Black women tradition. It came from Black women, from African diaspora people, or on continent Africans, whichever way you're gonna go with it. And the difference between us and say Wiccans or New Age pagans, these things, those traditions, excuse me, are reconstructionist in nature. They're revisionist in nature. Our lineages managed to not be broken through the Mafa, through white folk, two bushes. We still here. You understand what I'm saying? By the grace of the ancestors, the ancestresses, and the dead people that we continue to elevate, okay? Because before you call Orisha, you got to go through a Mojuba. And before you can get to Mojuba into the Orisha, who do you call? I'm just saying, there's an order of operations. It's mathematical. Any mathematical system you go to anywhere in the world, there's a mathematical numeric basis that has an order of operations. I'm just saying, you know? So for me, it's like, everybody trying to escape the white man shit and the white man religion, but want to come to Black religion with white man shit. That's all I'm saying.
Well, oh Lord.
And then be mad when somebody says that's white people shit. No shade, no shade. Okay, but at the end of the day, it's not a judgment because we all are conditioned. Part of this process is having our elders chip away at that conditioning and come into the consciousness of Orisha. That's why we work on this thing we call Ori, because we have to become a container for a new way of living and understanding the world. None of us come right. So my question then becomes, if a critical analysis and being broken down has been a part of the process for each one of us, why is it that you feel entitled to skip the process?
That's been my damn question for the longest time. Why do you feel entitled to get to answer Z that I'm busting my ass to get to? And your ass ain't even gone to the ABC yet. You ain't even gone through it. You ain't even at A yet. You didn't start your alphabet, boo. And my thing is this, like, I had a discussion with someone yesterday regarding this topic, and they started suggesting Odu, and something in me got in. Yeah, and I got annoyed to an extent because I'm like, well, A, you're referencing Odu in a particular manner that lets me know you don't know Odu.
Right, because you Bible thumping Odu. You Bible thumping Odu, which is another thing.
Like, what makes me as a priest have to discuss Odu with you as a non-initiate? And why? Because you read Ochanilele's latest book, or because you read, and I'm not spilling tea in no nasty way, but I'm like, why? Because you had access, right? Because you had access to somebody's written, you know, divination Dilogum book, and so now you think you know a little something, and you want to go ask toe to toe with priest about how things go and what said this and what pataki. I don't have to tell you a goddamn thing and or even explain myself in that process of what the holy divination system is that I have to access as a priest.
You know, Baba Rudy says here, so what are the solutions? And I'm getting there. After we get through the challenges, we're going to get to the solutions, because I don't come complaining without a solution.
I like it.
You know what I'm saying? But the other piece of it is catch the tea. How many misas, you and I have both worked these misas. How many misas have we done for people with 14, 15 years of Ocha, who ain't dealt with the muertos since before they made Ocha, and got a laundry list of issues now because the muerto has not been addressed? So it's like, any way you slice it, you run into this prize that's going to get you caught up if you don't take the steps. That's all I'm saying.
Truth.
That's all I'm saying, because I remember sitting them white tables, having my business all out in the street, catching the Holy Ghost and all of that. But you know what? I had to pay those dues.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying with that. And part of the challenge here is also, you know, because I had a young lady basically the other day come at me like, well, I go to this particular temple and they give classes and this is how they teach us how to do this. So, you know, when you have the proliferation of of internet gurus and FB prophets, false prophets, you know, spreading falsehoods for profit. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Have to contend with what they view as popular and as correct, having never been to a bembe in their life, never sat on nobody's estera, never had no elder point to the ground and look at you like, what you about to do about this floor? You understand what I'm saying? So it's not even an initiate versus non-initiate type of thing, because, you know, we both know, we were those aleos who studied. I have learned a lot of shit from aleos. We both know aleos that know a lot of things more than some priests. Let's be real. It's not even a non-initiate versus initiate type of thing. It's a have you studied and been around and been disciplined and participated in the community versus those who have not type of thing. Okay?
They were showing up, plucking and doing all sorts of shit at the Ocha before we were even introduced to Igbo.
Real talk, plucking feathers, opening coconuts, because that's what you do. You do, you know, taking out the Ebo, figuring out, watching the goat. I mean, you know, these are the jobs you do when you ain't got Ocha. You understand? And your godparent helps to facilitate this connection because none of us does it on our own. But doubling back to the Facebook guru, so the sister hit me with, well, this is what they teach in this temple. Well, I'm not going to talk about any one person in particular. However, for this particular case with this temple, this is a collective of people that mix traditions, use Ifa to tell you what your voodoo loa is, what your palo and pum is. I have had at least 3 different women come to me afterwards, victims of sexual abuse and assaults. Okay, you're talking about people who've had titles revoked, etc. So I'm like, you're asking me to qualify why you on this bullshit, and now I have to contend with my inner petty and rise above this and say, baby, you don't know. You understand?
You making me jingle. You making me jingle my tambourine bracelets right now in the name of Oshun, because you giving me everything that I need. Everything.
And then
all
the other half of it is then another sister came and was like, well, why do the real have to be concerned with the fake? Everybody gonna find their way. Here's why. Because the person who doesn't know any better and pays you $55 for your Oshun new moon ritual, when it doesn't work, and then wants to curse the whole tradition and give the next priest a hard time. Now they don't have that $55 they done paid for the new moon ritual to pay for the actual divination that's going to fix their situation. And it becomes a trickle down problem for everybody involved. That's why we got to be concerned. Then you got the super bruja complex. Everybody want to be the baddest bruja in the building. That's a whole nother conversation.
Girl, the trap witches.
Oh, shit.
The trap witches. The ones on Instagram and tweeting, and they making candles and they doing all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, mama.
Yeah, they read
Mama darling sugar.
One cursory Google search. Okay. Next thing you know, you got Yemaya soaps, Oshun baths.
And that's it. This is my deal, and this is how I've always said it, and I'm gonna keep saying it every goddamn live video I ever do. I don't care. Is we're speaking ultimately about medicine, and we're speaking about license.
Right.
And what my thing is here is that these folks will sit here and talk about monopoly, and we'll talk about how dare we, and we make people feel a certain kind of way.
Yes,
when we tell them
I was going there next.
But will not question the fact that you need a PhD, internship, and a review by peers in order to practice medicine, or else your ass is practicing false medicine and going to motherfucking jail.
Ooh.
So my thing is, there has always been a process, of earning the title to operate within that functionality, within that capacity, as a priest, as a doctor, as whatever the case, even a car, boo. Right. You still had to take a written test before you even got to be behind that wheel and someone assessed that ass.
That's right. That's right.
This is the way it works. Right. There's always been a handoff. And if you're coming into any African traditional religion, including hoodoo, conjure, root work, I do not want to hear otherwise. There was levels of initiation. Right. It is not solely based on ancestry. Ancestry has a big part to do with it, a
Yes.
huge part to do with it. But oh, I can't even speak right now, damn
Initiatory rights.
Marita.
Right.
Anyway, but there was an
I got.
initiation
That's
process
right. That's
that
right.
occurred. And so I don't understand why it's so hard to fathom that you need to have certain rights and you need to be acknowledged by your community, by a community, to function
Right.
properly.
Right. You know, they come with,
And I don't get
yeah,
it.
they come with the argument that, priests are mean, they're entitled, they seem holier than thou. And, and we need to have compassion because folks are just trying to connect with their roots. And all of that is valid. Look, none of us got to knock on the door without kissing some priest's ass. It's just the way, the African way. Okay. This is another thing. You have to understand the difference in the world view for how we venerate and we defer to our elders. But when you're coming from the US, from the West, from it's about me, I don't need anybody else, I can go over these processes, then you've stepped outside of family, you've stepped outside of community, you've stepped outside of the acknowledgement of your peers, which is part of what initiation is about. So then we have to start
Absolutely.
having a discussion about what initiation is and does versus what it is not, and how the community plays a role in initiation. Because again, you can be born with all this ashe, you're born with all this wonderful ori and these amazing gifts. But until it's
Ashe.
consecrated and that consecration is facilitated by the community, we're still
By the
having an
community.
alignment issue. The community is what makes these priests what they are. You understand? So
They come to recognize it.
right.
They come to witness it.
Yes, they do, and say, you know what? I was there when that person found the Lord. That's what happens. That's what happens.
Yeah.
I was there. I signed the book. She done been saved. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how that goes. And then they talk about the arrogance and the entitlement. Well, imagine this. While y'all was still calling us devil worshipers, okay, watching Serpent in the Rainbow and the Believers and everything on TV, talking about I don't do voodoo, I don't fuck with that, okay? We were out here hiding in basements, killing chickens, okay, to get saved. Now when Beyonce done jumped in, it's cool now. And now we got a monopoly, now that it's all right to do this. But when y'all were dousing us with holy water, calling the police, talking about we killing babies. You know what I'm saying? It was devil worship. It wasn't for us. But now that you remember that, oh shit, our ancestors were doing something before we got here. I might want to go there. This is mine. I'm entitled to it. I say so. Never mind the people that done been here, done been going to court, done have to hide ceremonies with their children because the school find out that you got to answer to authorities, and people who got to be dealing with legal entities and all these different type of things to operate in a certain manner. But now because you say so, I don't need to pay nobody. I don't need to learn nothing. Oshun is born with me. I am La Bruja de Oshun. This is my name on Facebook. And
all that, I want DNA
candles.
results. I want your 23andMe, boo. I want receipts.
Hello.
I want to see Oshun listed as an ancestry.
And if you would have started with the work, though, you might have found out that you ain't no Yoruba and don't need no Orisha. You might be a Sango. You might be a Palera. You might not have nothing to do with this.
And that's the point. That's another point. There are other African deities.
There are.
Stop getting stuck on Orishas. Stop getting stuck on Orishas. There are plenty of other African people. There are plenty of other African deities. And I say this as people of color, and a lot of women, they don't like to hear the word no. They don't like to feel like they're being oppressed because of society, because things that happen. I understand that. And they hear these empowerment things when they hear about the Aje and the Iami, just seeing people of color together doing something, and they're like, oh my God, I want to be a part of this thing, and I want to be empowered. I get it. I totally get it. There's a history of why that's important to feel that way. But that doesn't mean you get to bypass what the very same ancestors you want to be part of have laid foundations on.
Right. And that's another
have played with their life.
That's right. That's right.
And so, no one's saying to not be empowered. In fact, we're saying the opposite. We're saying empower yourself through your ancestry.
Hello.
Do yourself a favor. If it's not a DNA test, fine. But do yourself a favor. Get in touch, commune, pray, meditate. Find out who walks with you, what works. Maybe
Right.
your great-great-grandmother walks with you. Maybe she got something to tell you. Maybe there's healing work you're doing on behalf of being in tune for your family and for yourself. In which case, you're acting as a capacity of a spirit worker and or a priest to a degree, and doing something that doesn't even require you having to bother Orisha, if Orisha's even for you.
Right. Exactly. You know, part of this for me is I understand how we use terms and we reclaim terms, and we're trying to reclaim this term of witch and bruja. But first of all, I politically don't identify with witch. I understand the wise woman traditions. Even if we wanted to take it to the Kemetic and say it comes from Wajet, that Neter, and we can go through all of that, what it has been used as to destroy women in general and women of color in particular on the planet, and especially how it has been used to displace and usurp the power of Black and brown women. I can't do that with you. That's not my language. Even if I go and I say bruja, there is nothing that I see today that reminds me of the people I identify as brujas, that I grew up with, that raised me on them white tables or in them spiritualist Veggie night churches, as we call them, other places. Okay. So then we have to find a language for what it is that we are. And if you're going to call it Aj and Iami and get into the mothers, well, then really actually go there. Because I do feel that women are reincarnating, they're remembering themselves, they're hearing a spiritual call. And the ego is keeping us from accessing education and context to really, truly answer that call in an authentic way. Straight up. And that's how Black folk fuck around and appropriate their own shit.
See, and here's the funny thing.
That's
Here's
all
the
I'm
funny
saying.
thing.
That's all
That's
I'm saying.
that you saying everything I said, but don't nobody want to hear from me. And my newest big critique was that I'm not African enough to have these conversations, so I'll leave that alone. Bye. But let's say this. Let's say this. That's gonna be another go live. By the way.
Right. That's a whole nother,
And I want my sisters to understand that a lot of these people, the Hoteps and the Awos, who want to sit there and call you queen and call you Aj and Iyami and gas you up to being this very spiritual person that we already know you are, that you inherently are, as a portal of life-giving ashe that women carry, okay, as living embodiments of Odu.
Right.
That's the same thing they use to prey on you.
Oh, talk about it.
They try to get in your head with these ideas so that they can get the draws or anything else from you. We got our walls out here who got people paying their bills, giving up the coochie, bringing them their friends in as sister wives and all sorts of things.
Now, hold up.
All based on dreams.
Pause right there. I'm going to have to say 2 words right there because, first of all, now, for those who don't like explicit language, go on and put me on mute right now because I'm about to make it clear. First of all, I am a woman who is centered and embodied and in alignment with her feminine. So I pretty much expect a motherfucker to want to screw me, honey. This is some quality shit happening over here.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and take that as a given. However, I have to have the discernment, and that person has to be in a place spiritually to understand the difference between sexual attraction and the movement of sexual energy and spiritual energy. We would have to actually have an esoteric conversation to get there, though, and that's part of the issue. People with all of these misunderstandings, were kind of sucking the mystical out of mystical tradition. But doubling back, though, if we're talking about Aj, Iyami, and all of that, one of the things that I have learned, okay, is that they will shine a bright ass light on every single thing you need to work on, everything that was in your shadow, everything that's keeping you in alignment from your divine nature. So while you think it's going to be all cute and incense and candles, the mothers are going to come and tear your whole facade down, because that's what the feminine does. And that's why it has to be oppressed. That's why you have the global millennia-long effort to completely eradicate the feminine from the planet. And that's what you engage in when you bypass feminine ancestral tradition. That's all I'm saying.
Honey, we talking if you are a woman and you are looking at your birth as a girl into a young lady, to a woman, and you realize that everything you ever had to go through was harder than your male counterparts, emotionally, physically, and then some, then you're understanding how the mothers work, because you're understanding the divine feminine pushes you in labor past discomforts. This is why women will always be stronger than men. This is why women will always have things that men want and have to manipulate in the form of an opong. But anyway, let me not even go there. That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing. But women as embodiments
Right.
of this concept of Odu,
Right.
this concept of femininity, which in essence is the continuity to all that is.
Ashe. Ashe.
The end. We cannot be or have continuance, whether you sprout an Oshetura or not, and whether you put a shun in the mix or not.
Right.
Without women, we would have nothing. Not even
Right.
this tradition, not our lives. Something Shango said at the Loshas United when he came down that had me, I almost Holy Ghosted in this room. Do you understand me? I almost Holy Ghosted in this back room. He said, not one king has ever got to kingship without suckling at his mother's breast.
Hello. Hello. Let's not talk about the role of women in the crowning of kings. Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
And the use of birds on staffs and feathers and all sorts of and headdresses and all that good stuff. But
all over that. All over it.
All over it. But look, it's getting close to an hour.
Right.
Solution oriented.
Right.
Let's talk about the solution oriented.
Oh, child.
So you know, I'm opening this floor up to you because I didn't come with solutions. I came with some minor solutions, but I want to hear what you got.
I came with solutions. Well, my first solution is to deal with your ancestors. We talked about it, but this is what gives me the case for Espiritismo. Espiritismo Criollo, and whatever vehicle of Creole Spiritism it is, because that's the place. As children of the diaspora, our lineages are more mixed. We don't only have our bloodline ancestors. We tend to have these other types of spiritual entities. I feel like it's what the Yoruba sort of see as your Egbe Orun loosely, but we still have this unique iteration of what's going on. And I feel that that witchiness outside of the call of the mothers that everybody feels could be satisfied if you just dealt with your spirit guides, the things that you have affinities for, bring it to the Bovida and develop your spiritual connection. That's my first solution.
Loose, goddammit.
Get you a Misa. Put down the candles and the Elegba heads and get you a Misa. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? You know, get with your natives, get with your indigenous stuff, get with what's actually calling to your spirit first in the ancestral and spiritual realm. And if you're going to put up an ancestral altar, still get with an educated spiritualist that can teach you maybe how to clean your house first. Maybe how to consecrate the space and make sure that when you're calling Egun, it's actually Egun responding. Maybe they can teach how to clean yourself and maybe teach you how to start throwing 4 pieces of coconut so you can confirm an answer, so that you can begin to empower yourself with the skill of divination, the skill of knowing how to cleanse and clear your home, and also cleanse yourself. That's another solution, some basic education just with dealing with the spiritual realm. You know, another solution would be connecting with a solid elder for divination and guidance. If you don't know somebody, ask somebody, get a referral, and then do your due diligence. What does that mean? That means actually meet them in person. Have you seen their family? Have you observed how they communicate with other people? In terms of how you learn, does this person communicate in a way that you feel like you can actually receive information and develop with? Do you even like that motherfucker? Because a lot of times we fall out, and again, it's not a religious issue. It's a personality issue. The person might be the most learned, the most developed, but y'all don't like each other, and therefore you're not going to move in the same way.
Truth.
Okay, so that's what I mean by doing your due diligence. And then take your first steps. If you find somebody, stick with them. Don't go 50 million places for 50 million things. If you're comfortable, you verified their credentials, lineage, how long they've been involved. You've had conversations with them to get an idea of what their politics and worldview is, and make sure you're actually in alignment. Because guess what? Yes. This tradition is not immune to racists, colorists, misogynists, sexists. And if your politics don't align, that may not be the person that needs to put ashe on your head. I'm just saying, they may have 50 million years of ultra. They may know how to work the hell out of an Igbo do. But if your politics don't align, that may be a very real point of contention that could stunt your growth. Those are the steps I mean.
Fucking, that is probably one of the most, like, if I had one of them horns right now, because you just dropped that shit,
real shit
on the reel.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't get along.
That's so real.
They don't get along. And
Please
then
continue.
You get caught up.
Please continue.
Okay? If you feel like the person is too critical or isn't guiding you in a way where you can feel safe and you can have a conversation, don't fuck with them. That doesn't mean they're illegitimate. Doesn't mean they don't got Ocha. It means you don't get along. It means maybe they don't have the skill of teaching. Not everybody's a teacher. They might got Ocha. They might know it inside out, but they don't have the skill of passing information on. That's not a judgment. And not everybody does that.
Not everybody.
This is why you actually have to see what a person is, who a person is, and see, can you connect in the way that you are really seeking? If you're looking for a spiritual family, but the person does not do that, then you need to search for a person who does.
Absolutely.
And don't be mad, because guess what? Not just because you made Ocha doesn't mean you have to have a spiritual house. Doesn't mean you have to do this. I remember when people were stingy with their Ocha. They were not just going to give you their Ocha. You had to give them a damn good reason for them to share their Ocha with you. I remember that.
Some of us are still like that.
Right.
I don't want it.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like, you got to understand that there's layers to this. And the next piece of advice, outside of connecting with an elder, actually getting divination and starting with your ancestors, to me would be to separate witchcraft from actual spiritual traditions and ways of life. This is not witchcraft. Not everybody who's a priest in this tradition is a witch. A witch is a specific kind of being. We have words for that. We have words for that. Okay, so when they get on, you know what I'm saying, and they make their snarky comments online about, well, they just don't know, they just all doing brujeria, it's all brujeria. Not so much. For some people, it's devotion. For some people, it's a way of maintaining and staying their ass alive. It's protection. And for others, it might be witchcraft. For some, it might be all of the above.
Some people are moving energy.
Hello?
Yeah, some are moving energy as witches, and giving the credit to these entities.
Ashe.
Oh, well, this worked because I did this in the name of Oshun and it worked. But you might have done it. You actually might have moved that, whether that been an ancestral energy move, whether that has been an energy manipulation. You may have done that.
Right. Right. And even, you know, there's so many perspectives we can take it from. Like from a traditional witchcraft perspective, if you go into like high priests and ceremonial magicians, everyone gets to a point where they have to bring in the help of a spirit helper, whether it's their familiar, whether we get crowned. We understand that there's only so much life force that depletes you as a witch. And that's why you have the help and the access of the spirit world. And you understand how to make spirit contracts and conjure them to send them on these things, because we actually need our life force. See, if you were an actual witch, you know that. You see what I'm saying?
I know folks just watch this and their eyes just lit up.
That's what I'm saying.
You just said that. I know folks watching this were just like.
That's all I'm saying. Because that's what, and then you know what we call those? We call those Oloshas, Eoloshas, Babaloshas, Mambos, Hungans. The people who have become proficient in the language of spirit. So I'll give you an example. I was having a debate. Well, it wasn't a debate, but it was a conversation that this person wanted to make a debate with an African-American Wiccan. And I was explaining that as we deal with different spirits in different systems, we have to learn the language. We have to learn the rites. We have to learn these things. And so her thing was, well, that sounds all jumbled up and mixed up. Every time I talk to something, I got to learn something new. And I said, but that's what priests do. We learn the language of spirit. Haitian voodoo taught me that. Because if you got thousands and thousands of spirits and you got them divided into nations, and you have to know how to dress, how to put the colors, how to say the chants, how to call this particular family of spirits, and it's totally different from this one. And you, as a priest, you have to become proficient in that language and those skills, because that's what priests do. You telling me you ain't got to do all that. But even if you were a witch, the old witches that I know were proficient in the languages of their familiars and learned everything there was to know about their familiar, because that's how you gonna make that familiar move. In Palo, we might call that Indoki. But if you don't direct it, it's still gonna move. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, understand that there's a science behind this. You know?
A science.
So I'm just saying, you know, but in terms of solutions, you know, those are mine. You know, get involved with some real community. Actually ask people. And for all these women feeling so witchy and wanting to do all of this, how about form groups of women? Because guess what the witches I know are all getting? They're all getting the same message. And that's the mothers want us to gather and work collectively. So
I'm all for women's spaces operated by women for women without participation of any penis.
So,
how about that?
Thank you. So if it's witches and community that you want, create them. And you don't have to co-opt anything, because there are priestesses who will gladly be a part of your witch things and help you. But don't bypass the process and then tell me that you're doing me a favor and this is what liberation looks like. That's not what it looked like. Which brings me to, right. Which brings me to people like the trap witch. I am not approved, because I'm gonna get out here and slang it in all kind of ways, honey, and I done slang it skillfully in many a spaces, but we're not talking about me. Okay.
I know how I get down, so I'm just saying.
Right.
That's not the point.
Okay. But if you're going to post videos shaking your behind, and then in the caption talk about book before reading, then don't be mad when people put your twerk and your reading in the same category. Just be clear about what you're saying to us. I'm not hating on that, sister, but it is.
No, presentation is everything. Presentation is everything. And you know, there is a way. Listen, I'm a fool. Everyone knows I'm a fool. But when I get in Igbo, when I get into a space of working a table, when I get into a space of having to commune and work to the capacity of which I'm trained to work, I do what I need to do. There's a very clear, concise line between them two people. So David Sosa, the priest, and David Sosa, the Facebook fool, are two different people.
Thank you.
You know, and so there needs to be that. But
right.
You know what? we did about an hour right now.
Right. We're done here.
Folks to digest. There's a lot for folks to digest, and I just want to say, I fucks with you.
You not fucks with
always admire, respect, and love you.
Yes.
And I want folks watching this to don't get in your feelings.
Please don't.
Listen. Just listen. Digest it a little bit, see how it makes you feel, see where we're coming from if you can, as to initiated priest. And if you have any questions, please post them. Both of us, I'm sure, will probably monitor it and review sharing it and see what we need to answer.
Yeah.
Even me and Ty, we may agree on a lot of things, and some things we may not meet up in the middle, but we respect each other, and this is how it works. Even two priests, which is one more point before I go, is this is always and going to be an oral tradition. So I don't care how many books you bought from the Botanica. I don't care how many John Masons you read, or Chani Lele's, Willie Miguel Ramos. I don't care. This is an oral tradition. And you will have to learn at the feet of your elders. You will have to learn by showing up in person and sometimes working to the bone, to the bare knuckle bone, and paying attention to elders speak and gathering the information. And later on, going to your elder and or your mentor, your spiritual advisor, and having a conversation about what was discussed and what works for you in your lineage. And that's one last thing I have to say. There are different lineages, and you need to know what goes on in yours and how y'all operate before you start worrying about everybody else.
Right. And on that, my last final point would be in terms of having your elders there, it feels good. You would want to do it. It feels good as a young person in this tradition when an elder sees me do something and they're like, that little girl's got it. It reinforces you that you are representing something well, that you're doing it the right way. It's not a thing that's going to take away from you. You know what I'm saying? It's going to make you feel like something like, you know what, the old lady in the corner signed off on me. I think I'm on the right path. Right. All right. Well, I love you.
I love you, darling. Until the next time.
All right, next time. Bye.
All right, darling. Bye.